History isn't always what we think it is. Sometimes the real story, the one that sets the record straight, isn't in some big, fancy textbook. Nope, it's hidden away in the careful handwriting on a single old piece of paper. And today, we're going to uncover one of those stories.
So, take a look at this. What you're looking at is a page from the 1891 England census. And yeah, at first glance, it's just a list of names and numbers, right? But for one family, this document is basically a treasure map. It's the key to unlocking a truth that's been misunderstood for a long, long time.
And right at the heart of this whole mystery is one name that just doesn't quite seem to fit. So that's our big question, our starting point. Who exactly was George Shepherd, and what was his real connection to the Lincez family?
All right, to solve this, we've got to put on our historical detective hats. Our investigation actually starts a full decade before that 1891 document, with our very first clue. Here it is. This is the Lincez family's first appearance in the census records, all the way back in 1881. This gives us a baseline, right? A snapshot of the family when they were just getting started. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so back in 1881, the household is pretty small. You've got Victor Lincez, he's the head of the family. Then there's his wife, Hannah, and a little 3-year-old boy named George Shepherd Lincez, listed right there, plain as day, as their son. Seems simple enough, right? But trust me, that one little line is hiding a whole lot more than you'd think.
Now, let's jump forward 10 years to 1891. This is our key piece of evidence. And suddenly, the family picture gets a whole lot bigger and a whole lot clearer.
This document right here, this is the linchpin. This is what breaks the whole case open. The details that the census taker jotted down here are what finally untangle the relationships and correct the family story for good.
Man, this record is just packed with details. So at the top, we've got Victor Lincez, a steam engine fitter who came all the way from Belgium, and his wife Hannah. And wow, in the 10 years since that last census, their family has absolutely exploded. They've added 7 more kids. But the real bombshell, the clue we've been looking for, is right at the very bottom. George Shepherd, who's 13 now, isn't listed as a son. His relation says boarder. And then there's this tiny handwritten note that changes everything. Wife's son.
And there it is. That small note cracks the case wide open. Now we can take all the pieces of evidence we've found and finally put them together to see the true picture of the Lincez family.
So, there you have it. That's the key. George was not Victor Lincez's biological son at all. He was Hannah's son from before she ever married Victor. You see, the 1891 census finally clarifies what that earlier 1881 census just simplified.
This just perfectly illustrates the story unfolding over time, doesn't it? When you look at both records side by side, the consistency is obvious. Hannah is Victor's wife in both censuses. George is there in both. The only thing that changes is that little clarification of his exact relationship to the head of the household.
And when we pull in other records, the timeline just snaps into place. It's crystal clear. George was born in 1878, and his mom was a single woman named Hannah Shepherd. Just a year after that, in 1879, Hannah marries Victor Lincez. And of course, she brings little George with her into this new family. And by 1881, boom, they're all living together as one household.
We also see his name kind of change a little bit over time. His birth records actually show Shepherd with 2 P's. But over the years, he becomes known as George Shepherd. And in that first 1881 census, he was even given the family surname Lincez. This was actually pretty common for stepchildren back then.
While we're on the topic of the family name, that Lincez spelling, that's a really cool detail. It points straight back to the family's Belgian roots. It totally backs up what Victor himself said in the census, that he was born in Belgium. It's amazing how every little detail in these records adds another piece to the puzzle.
But the story doesn't just stop in 1891. The lives of Victor, Hannah, and George kept going, and the records actually give us a peek into the next chapter for the Lincez family. Hannah, the matriarch of this blended family, ended up living a long life. She passed away in 1928. She was the mother to George and 7 more children with Victor, creating this really large and lasting family line.
Now, even though Hannah lived until 1928, her story with Victor took another turn. In 1898, the records show that Victor actually got remarried, starting a whole new chapter in his life with his second wife, Jeanette Paulus. And what's really fascinating here is that Victor's second wife, Jeanette, was also from his home country of Belgium.
They got married in England, which just continues his story as a Belgian immigrant building a new life and new families abroad.
This whole journey of discovery really just perfectly captures this idea. The story of George Shepard Lincez was like a hidden branch on the family tree, just waiting patiently in the archives. And it only took a couple of key documents to bring it back into the light and set the record straight.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? That one tiny little handwritten note, wife's son, it completely flipped our understanding of this family on its head. We didn't just find a list of names and dates, we found their truth. And it just leaves you with this one last question. How many other family secrets are just sitting there in an archive somewhere, waiting for someone to come along and turn the page?